Meet Tony Robinson. At 37, Tony is a busy representative for a major pharmaceutical company. Tony's been married 3 years, and she and her husband are happily expecting their first child. This is Carl Robbins. Carl is a successful psychotherapist who still manages to squeeze in some time working on his golf swing. At first glance, it might seem that Tony and Carl don't have much in common, but they share a debilitating challenge.
Looking back, I first started having symptoms in the late 90s. I was actually having trouble breathing when I was exercising.
For myself, I was like late 90s, started to have a lot of difficulty with breathing, and I've always been an athlete, very athletic. No issues with anything, very healthy my entire life, and noticed that I was sluggish and I would get out of breath, and I was having excessive tearing in my eyes and night sweats. Very scary, and this went on for a while. I think it started with the breathing first, and I thought maybe, you know what, I'm not as athletic as I used to be, I'm not working out, maybe I just need to work out. But then just walking up a flight of stairs was very challenging.
After what was for both of them many frustrating and futile trips to the doctor, both Tony and Carl were diagnosed with sarcoidosis.
Once the night sweats kicked in, I started getting very nervous. And I went to the doctor and I said, I'm having this tearing and night sweats and I'm out of breath. And they really just focused on the tearing at first, and they did a couple procedures that can be done to, unblock tearing. They didn't work, so finally they did surgery. And when they did surgery on my tear duct, they biopsied some of the tissues. And that's when they came back and said, you have something called sarcoid. Never heard of it before, no clue. Went home, looked it up, still kind of no clue. As we learned about the disease, for me, the doctor was also learning herself because she'd never had a sarcoid patient. And she didn't really know how to treat me or what to do or anything. So it was a growth process for both of us.
But one possibility is that it could be this thing called sarcoidosis. But you can't possibly have sarcoidosis because you are not black. And all he had to do was ask me one more question, which was, have you had any trouble breathing? Because 90% of people with sarcoidosis have some kind of lung involvement. So I went on, and I even remember joking about this funny name that I had heard, sarcoidosis. And then I ended up, then I went to see a gastroenterologist because I was having some stomach problems, and he noticed that both my liver and my spleen were enlarged. So I started to get really scared because there was a discussion, the possibility of lymphoma, or even viral hepatitis, and they ended up sending me to a hematologist, and I kept on getting bounced around. And one night I went on to Medline, which is the online medical information database, and I started searching all of my symptoms, and it kept on coming up, sarcoidosis.
Sean Hull, too, knows something about the devastation of what is still, for most, a mysterious disease.
My mom actually had the disease for the last 13 years of her life, and my brother and sister and my father didn't know that she was struggling with the disease, so this was something that she struggled on by herself. And it wasn't until her passing in 1996, I went over to Johns Hopkins University to find out a little bit more about the disease and try to get an understanding and a grip on exactly what this disease was that was instrumental in taking her life.
It was from that grief that the Life and Breath Foundation was born.
In 1997, after getting the information I needed, I understood that I wanted to do something about it. I wanted to do something in her memory, and I wanted to help other families and patients that were in the same position we were in, and that was in the dark. We didn't know anything about the disease, didn't know where to go to find an understanding.
Carl agrees.
That's why the work of Life and Breath is so important, because we need to be able to offer people something more than just steroids, because the side effects of the medication can be worse than the disease itself. Fortunately, I had a very, very supportive family and friends, and I was, I responded very well to the prednisone, so fortunately I didn't have to miss any work. I would say that one of the effects of being on prednisone for 4 of the past 6 years is that I gained a great deal of weight, which I've had a great deal of difficulty taking off, which is not unusual for people who take prednisone.
For Tony, her pregnancy raises a unique set of concerns.
The main one is going to be if for some reason the oxygen intake that I'm getting declines in any way, then of course that means the baby's getting less oxygen and it won't grow as it should.
Tony and Carl agree that much more awareness and research is desperately needed.
That we need more funding for more clinics, for more training for physicians. I know that Johns Hopkins, the clinic at Johns Hopkins is overwhelmed by the number of inquiries that they get from around, not only around the country, but around the world. And that's one of the things which I think we really need to do, which is to improve access to care and improve training and information for physicians and other healthcare providers.
There's still not a lot known about it, and we're in 2007, this was 2001. It's kind of like the gray mystery disease.
The Life and Breath Foundation hopes to take the mystery out of the disease by finding a cure.
Right now our partnership is with Johns Hopkins University and their sarcoidosis clinic. I think a lot of the problems centered around doctors, patients, families, really truly having not having an understanding of exactly what it is and where to go to seek the treatment. So again, the Life and Breath Foundation is an entity that's set up to help the family members, the patients, and the doctors find a cure for this disease.
For Tony, for Carl, and for Ida.